And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Canal Winchester High School to preview Week 7 of the high school football season. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show, the coach of the 6-0 Canal Winchester Indians, Josh Stratton. Thanks for taking a little bit of time to join us this afternoon.
Thanks, I appreciate the company.
The Indians have a big rivalry game, a big OCC Capital game this week over at Groveport, who comes in 5-1. But you know, you're a team that's riding 15 consecutive wins dating to last year, 6-0 so far this year. You beat a good New Albany team on Friday night. What are the biggest trends through the first 6 weeks that are really standing out as to why you're in this start you're in?
I would say defensively, we've done our best job in a while at halftime adjustments. If you look at our box scores, we've done a really good job in the second half, slowing down offenses that were moving the ball on us in the first half. We've progressively gotten better, more balanced, I would say, offensively throughout the year. In terms of our passing games really picked up in the last 7 weeks, and our quarterbacks plays pretty good.
Well, like Dave was saying, long winning streak for you guys, off to a great start this year. You've only been here really for a couple of years. Has there been something about, has there been like a culture change, anything like that, kind of like big picture that's kind of helped you guys take this big step forward?
There's always a culture change, I think, when you bring in a new guy, an unknown. I mean, the bottom line is I think that the community, the kids here, the administration, the assistant coaches that I kept on staff were all, they wanted to win, and they were willing to do whatever was in my vision to change the program in order to win, and everyone's been bought in since day one, and I think that's why it happened as quick as it did, was because the buy-in happened really quickly, really fast from the kids and the coaches that obviously that are holdovers from previous staff. Parents, you know, so sometimes they take a little bit longer, but the kids were really quick to buy in.
Are those the sorts of things you saw when this job came open? Obviously, you had a good job in Southwest Ohio. You're a Central Ohio guy. Did you kind of see this community and think, I think that we have an opportunity to do some great things here?
Right. And I talked to some friends of mine in Central Ohio that are football coaches, and they all kind of said the same thing, like, yeah, we think Canal should be winning. We think they should be better than they are. And I know they had they played in a heck of a league. You know, the first go around the OCC, like, I'm not oblivious to the fact that the league the first time around was a lot tougher than what we got now. But you know, there's some tradition here, some football tradition. But we're a growing district. We're a very diverse district, which is one of our better traits is the fact that we're so diverse. I love that about our district. And like I said, the community supports our teams, I think. So, but yeah, it was definitely a place that I did my homework on, and I thought that I could definitely come in and make an impact.
6-0 Canal Winchester against 5-1 Groveport. Obviously, it looks like a pretty exciting matchup on paper. What's some of your thoughts about it?
Well, it's been a great game the last 2 years. You know, that was another thing. When I got hired, I heard Groveport takes that game really seriously. Canal doesn't take it as serious, so I really wanted to change that. So from day one, from the day I got hired, our number one goal is to beat Groveport. It's on the wall in our locker room. It's on everything. It's on our website. I mean, we want to beat Groveport. We talk about it 365 days out of the year, and that's what a rivalry is about. You know, and you got to make it, and that's fun. That's what makes high school sport. Part of what makes sports fun is rivalry games. But it's been well played on both sides the last 2 years. Clean game, no chipping, no talking trash. Like kids just playing hard, and we've been fortunate enough to honestly to win the last 2 years. But they were both really close games, well played games, and this one's going to be a game.
I'm looking forward to covering it, Coach. We'll let you get back to preparation. Thanks,
Appreciate
Josh.
it.
Thanks for being on the
Appreciate
chat.
that, guys.
All right, this is Indians coach Josh Stratton joining us. This is one of the better matchups of the week, really, in Central Ohio. I mean, this is a series that was dormant for 50 years, and then it was resurrected a couple years ago before they went into the same division. They're going to be in different divisions next year, and will open the season against each other. What have you noticed that you think is going to be interesting about this game?
I believe you put in your story this week, doesn't Groveport lead this series 17-13?
I believe that's
all
the
time.
number. Yeah.
But Canal's won the last two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a couple teams that have been, really run the ball really well, and I expect to see, a lot of big plays from guys like, is it Steffenberg?
Mm-hmm.
Steffenberg, and Canal's got a really good quarterback.
Yeah, Jack Beeler.
So there's going to be a lot of big plays in this game Friday.
I'm doing a story for next week's paper about Groveport stable of running backs. They're running for they're averaging 257 yards a game. They had well over 300 last week in a win at Franklin Heights and in a win at Kilbourne earlier this season. I think they had 364 against Kilbourne. They call themselves the Four Horsemen, and we'll see. I mean, they distribute the ball really well. We'll see what they're able to do, and they've got a big defensive line up front too, which is going to pose some issues for these guys.
It's good that Groveport's gotten back on track a little bit after I believe they lost 2 weeks ago, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's last week was a good win for them to head into this game.
And you saw them against Pickerington Central the week before. They lost a close game to Liberty, and then they bounced back against Franklin Heights. I'll be at that game on Friday night. And some other games to look forward to this week. We head into the City League. 2 6-0 teams, Walnut Ridge and South. And I for 5 things we expect this week, I did a little bit of research about this. And of course, South has never made the playoffs. Walnut Ridge, I believe this would be their 8th time since '92, which was their first getting in. So this is kind of the established team versus the team that's trying to take that next step.
Right. Walnut Ridge is full of, they've got a great coaching staff. They've got great athletes. They've got the experience, and they haven't lost to South. I'm not really sure exactly how long it's been, but it's been several years since they lost to South.
Mm-hmm.
Now, South's trying to get on that level this year. They're trying to get on that upper echelon. We can be a playoff team level this year, and I know I talked to their coach a couple of weeks ago, and he's just really excited about the culture that he's seeing in the locker room over there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, this is not what people expect. We've got a great camaraderie on our team. I mean, these are kids that work hard, and I think it's just exciting that South is kind of even in this position.
Well, the Bulldogs were 6-0 last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right? And then they struggled some down the stretch and missed the playoffs. I want to say they split their last 4.
The schedule does get tougher, but this is a measuring stick for South for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they don't win, I think if you're in their shoes, you got to be thinking we've got to kind of get it a little bit closer than it's been.
A little bit of a different taste for this next game we're talking about. It's a rivalry. It's an important one in the OCC Buckeye with Olentangy Orange. It's 5-1 going to Olentangy, which is 4-2. And Orange's only losses to Pick North. They've had a couple lopsided wins in a row. Olentangy has won 2 in a row against since their loss to Dublin Kaufman. They've pulled both of them out with fourth quarter comebacks. These are 2 of the 3 teams that split the league. The other one being Liberty last year. This is jockeying for position not only in the region but in the playoffs as well.
What do you like about the way Olentangy has come together here the last couple of weeks?
Their offense has continued to gel even more, and they made some tweaks along their offensive line. I want to say it was before the Kaufman game, if I'm getting my timing right. They moved some guys around on the offensive line. Toby Wilson, son of Kevin Wilson, the OSU assistant coach, is now their center, and they moved some other guys around. Didn't bring any new guys in, but just jockeyed who they have, and that seemed to have really been a good trend for them, with Trent Maddox able to complete the kind of passes he has been. I mean, you look, he's near the top, or he's at the top of the area leaders with passing. Jake Coleman, Jace Middleton, who is a baseball commit to Ohio State. Caleb Gossett had his first career touchdown, or first touchdown of the year last week. So they've really been able to spread the ball around well. The thing they probably want to have is more balance with the run game, but they're able to score a lot of points because they can throw the ball.
Orange is a little bit of they've been really good the last few years. And Zeb Schroeder, great coach, been doing a really great job out there the last couple of years, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They are, I would say at this point in time, they're still a little bit of a mystery in some ways because the 5 teams they've beaten, they're 5-1, but the 5 teams they've beaten are a combined 7-23.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know exactly how good they really are yet. This is going to be a really good, another measuring stick,
Yeah.
I guess, so to speak. So. And they've still got some big games coming up. They got Liberty coming up in a couple weeks, obviously. And how is Orange going to handle this kind of an explosive offense? I mean, Olentangy has been explosive at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of been their trademark under Mark Solis here these past several years. Another game we will have, Scott Henna, by the way, will be at that Orange versus Olentangy game. Frank Dorena will be at Upper Arlington, where the Golden Bears will host Hilliard Davidson.
He might be out of there by 8:30.
Yeah, he gets to cover that quick game with Davidson coming in at 4-2. They beat Central Crossing last week to snap a 2-game winning streak. UA, on the other hand, is 3-3. They've won a couple of games in a row. And this is a game, Frank tweeted about it earlier. I know I've mentioned it in my stories. Jeremy Scally used to be an assistant at Davidson. UA's running the ball more. They're doing well on that option versus Hilliard-Davidson, which has run the option, I think, ever since any of us can remember. So, yeah, an interesting dynamic there, and Davidson looking to continue domination of that series.
Davidson is getting back on track. I mean, I know they had kind of a couple weeks where they weren't able to get the win. And they've still got Coughlin coming up, I believe, next week.
Yes,
in week 8.
So
this is a big game for them for sure. If they can continue on the path that they want to go on, next week can be a really huge game for them. And obviously UA this is a great game for them to see where they're at right now under Coach Scally.
And you mentioned about Davidson dropping a couple in a row. I asked Brian White, and when we talked on Sunday about that, it's like, hey, there are going to be a lot of teams that lose to the 2 teams they lost to, Liberty and Pickerington Central. And he really liked more that they played well in a lot of facets of the game, I think, in their win over Central Crossing. So we'll see. Frank will have your recap Friday night from the refurbished Marv Moorhead Stadium. Worthington Kilbourne and Dublin Scioto, another one of those rivalry games. This is the Battle of Hard Road. Scioto's 3-3. Kilbourne, under Mike Edwards, got their first win last week, beat Delaware. Scioto gutted one out against Bradley, got a 39-yard field goal at the buzzer. What do you notice about this series that Scioto leads all time?
Well, as far as Kilbourne's concerned, they've actually played a pretty tough schedule. If you sit there and you look at it real close, I believe the teams that they've lost to are combined 20 and 10.
Groveport's one of those teams that beat them earlier.
So they're 1-5. Scioto's 3-3. I'd almost kind of put those records as kind of equivalent in some ways. So how far has Kilbourne been able to come out of Coach Edwards these first 6 weeks? We're gonna find out some things about them Friday.
That's always a good feeling too, to get your first win, and they got it by 2 touchdowns over a Delaware team. So we'll see.
They're going against a veteran coach, Carl Johnson.
Yes, they are.
He's been through a lot of these hard road battles.
So yeah, and 27 of them all time, and Scioto leads the series 14-13. They've won 9 of the last 11 games in the rivalry.
I think I covered one of those maybe about 7-8 years ago. They're always entertaining.
Entertaining? Yeah. Andy Resnick behind the camera, lives in Wolves territory. I know he's seen that before. Westerville South is at 4-2 on the season. They've had a tough couple weeks. They take on a 6-0 Liberty team that just seems to keep gutting out wins. Defense for them all season long, no matter the injuries they've had, it seems like. But they've got a chance now to go to 7-0 and really reassert themselves on the top of the OCC Buckeye before they face the other 2 of the other Olentangy schools back to back.
I'm not sure if people realize how impressive that win was that Liberty got last week. Mm-hmm. Westerville Central's been scoring something like 50 points every game, and they held them to a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. And Liberty was outgained in that game and still won.
Yeah.
It's just...
I'd be a little scared to play them right now.
I had to double check those stats just to make sure they were correct.
Yeah.
But hey, Liberty did everything they had to do to win that ball game, so we'll see. And Westerville South, like we said, they're continuing to deal with injuries, and they're going to try and snap the 2-game losing streak when they take on Liberty. Harvest Prep out this way, and Reedy at 3-3. And Harvest Prep there's a team that's gotten some big wins here the last couple weeks in their league. What are you seeing about them? Going through a tough stretch and pulling out some wins now. Harvest
Prep's had to go through a little bit of adversity with their roster too. I mean, they had I believe 3 of their top players are no longer with them because they were only eligible for the first half of the season because of the transfer rules. So how will they adjust going forward? I don't really see a lot of changing. They run the ball really well. Mm-hmm. They're going to continue to keep running the ball really well. And they're playing. That game is at Fortress Hobits on Friday. Okay. By the way, where Reedy's playing all of its home games this year. Reedy has they need a big game here to kind of solidify if they're going to have any kind of playoff hopes in Division 5. I mean, they're 3-3, and they've still got to play Whitehall, and so this is a really good game for them to see if they could somehow get this win. That would be big for them.
Well, and you could probably argue that in that position, I mean, you're going to start to face must-wins at this point of the season for the next 4 weeks. Crazy enough that we're this late in the year already. Worthington Christian, another team you cover, they went down to Lancaster last week and got a real nice win over Fisher Catholic. Beat them, 31-21, and now they come back home and they're going to face Dayton Christian this week.
I mean, I got to say, I was kind of fascinated by the whole situation. I did end up making the trip up there. Was able to watch some of that game, Fisher Catholic against Worthington Christian. Worthington Christian just had a lot more. They had a lot more explosive athletes than Fisher Catholic did, really, and that's why they were able to win a game. And after the game, Coach Harding's in the huddle was just kind of, he was very passionate about some of the things he wants to see from them over the next few weeks, and he believes that, maybe they're just scratching the surface, if you can believe that. I mean, they're 4-2, and obviously they've got a huge game coming up with Dayton Christian. Dayton Christian's 5-1. Worthing Christian has never really been in this situation before, so it's really exciting. Fisher Catholic is probably the biggest win they've ever had as a program.
Which, hey,
is kind of cool, right?
That's always got to happen sometime, right? I mean, and that's good for them at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, mind you, to go down and play that game. A few others to talk about. One of the battles of Fairfield County. This is always an entertaining rivalry. 5-1 Pickerington Central is home against 2-3 Lancaster. And there's a team that's had the Tigers' number in recent years. Not saying this happens every year, but the Golden Gales, they get amped up for that game. I can speak from experience, having covered them several years ago. This is a huge game in Lancaster, and it's an important game anyway when you get these two rivals together.
Coach Jay Jarrod, has a lot of respect for Lancaster, just from all the years that I've talked to him. And there's no coach that's actually beaten Central more than Rob Carpenter has since Jay Jarrod's been coaching.
That's music to the ears down in Lancaster.
Well, I mean, it's the facts are the facts, but I would expect Pickerington Central to come into this very focused. After their loss to Groveport, they've kind of been a different football team the last couple of weeks.
Well, understandably
really
so. And sometimes it takes that to get on track. And this is the first of a couple big rivalry games in a row because they've got Pick North next week. Central does. And obviously we'll talk more about that on Tuesday. Bradley is at 1-5. They go to a Berlin team that finds themselves tied for first in the OCC Cardinal Division. What a win they had against Darby. Some really strong fourth quarter, a couple of interceptions, and I feel like we talk about Berlin every week because it keeps getting better and better for them at this point.
That's a great story to see a program progressing like this. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're tied for first in that league with Dublin Jerome, and I believe those two teams meet here sometime in the next couple of weeks. One more to mention before we get out of here: an East Side rivalry, 2 3-3 teams with Bexley and Whitehall. Bexley's started to get some things straight here the last couple of weeks. Whitehall also has started to get some things straight here the last couple of weeks. Both of these teams started tough, and they've probably got to like their direction where they're heading now.
Absolutely. Coach Golden has got this team maybe moving in the right direction. And after a couple of really rough seasons with Bexley, it's great to see what they've been able to do out there so far. And Whitehall, of course, 2 weeks ago did that huge win over Grandview. And
60 points?
Yeah, 60 points. So they're probably a scary team to play right now.
All right, and we will we'll have all the recaps and scores on Friday night on our website, and we will talk to you again next Tuesday. We don't know where yet, but we will decide that over the weekend, and we will pass on the news to you. For Jarrod, Ulrey, and for Coach Josh Stratton, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.